Hello, fellow readers. My name is Greg, and this is Ghost Readers in the Sky, channel where I talk about the history and the literature of the American West, and then as I'm reading that, I gallop off in whatever direction I feel like. Thanks for joining me today. This is my February 2025 Roundup, an overview of what I've read in the month of February, and some of my favorites and some of my recommendations that you may want to take a look at yourself. I thought I'd start with some of the projects that I have ongoing. I started a project to read all of the Walt Longmire series written by Craig Johnson, and I'm continuing that project, but I didn't get anything read in February. But I will continue on. I have not abandoned the project. Other things happened in February. The project that I'm really proud of, that I'm glad I started, is my Read a Short Story Every Day project, a little commitment to myself. I started this on January 1st, and I read a short story every day in January. And in February, again, I read a short story every day. So 28 days in February, 28 short stories. And I read 7 different authors across those 28 stories in February. I read short stories by Andy Adams, Willa Cather, Zane Grey, Louis L'Amour, Jack London, Mark Twain, and Elmore Leonard. That's a pretty nice span. There were some great stories in there. Not really many clunkers, mostly just really solid, entertaining, enjoyable stories that I'm really glad I've read. And some that I'll go back and read again. As for events in the month of February, I'm warming up to this idea of BookTube events, but it is not in my DNA just yet. But I'd kind of like to get there. In February, the only event that I took part in, and it was just for one of the prompts, and that is Holmes is Where the Heart Is, where we read stories of Sherlock Holmes and other writings of Arthur Conan Doyle and works about Sherlock Holmes and Arthur Conan Doyle. And I read one short story by Mark Twain, which featured Sherlock Holmes. So it is the Sherlock Holmes character in a bit of a parody, a bit of a satire, written by Mark Twain, called A Double-Barrel Detective Story. And I made a video about that, which you can take a look at if you so desire. And that was a good story, and I'm glad I got that done as part of Holmes is Where the Heart Is. And then some of my favorite works. I read a great memoir by J.B. Zielke called The Lost Cowboy, where he wrote about his adventures working on cattle ranches and working with livestock on 6 continents. He's a guy who grew up in Wyoming, who grew up on a farm, on a ranch, who did rodeo up through college, and then went and explored all over the world, learning different livestock systems, different cultures, different ways of doing things. I made a full video about that as well, if you'd like to explore that, but that was a really good memoir, a recent one. J.B. Zielke, The Lost Cowboy. And then of all the short stories I've read, it was difficult to narrow down my favorite, but I ended up choosing, I think my favorite short story that I read in the month of February was Willa Cather's An Enchanted Bluff. It's a story that was published in 1909 in Harper's, and it's about 6 boys who are growing up in a small Midwestern town. I think it's called Sandtown or something similar. And one of them has just finished high school and is going off to a job outside of town to teach. And so they're all gathering together in these last times that they have together as kids. And they talk about what they want to do with their lives. So there's a lot of dreaming and scheming and planning and plotting and really just envisioning what does the future hold. And as they're doing this, one of the boys, Tip, he has an Uncle Bill who had wandered all over the world, all over the West, and he talked about an enchanted bluff in New Mexico, a big rock that just shot straight up, all by itself, no other structures around, no other mountains, no, just a big bluff out by itself, and no real way to get up, no real way to get down, and yet the tribe had built some ladders and stairs and ways to move up and down this bluff. So it was perfectly protected when everyone was on top, and then a big storm came and the ladders and stairways were wiped out. And so Tip's telling the story about this enchanted bluff and how he wants to go back there with Uncle Bill, and all of the boys are very excited about the possibility of going there, and they talk about the different ways they might get there and what they might do when they actually arrive. And really, in this whole story, nothing happens. It's just them talking about their plans and their dreams and their goals and envisioning what they might do in their lives, especially around the enchanted bluff. And we do get at the end, must be, it's at least a decade later, if not more, where our narrator returns to town and finds out what all is going on with all of his friends and whether or not they've been to the bluff and what they found. And it's just a really enjoyable story. In some ways, it's boys' adventure because they're thinking about all of these crazy things they could do, and yet they're just sitting around on the banks of the river, watching the river go by and talking about what they want to do. I've added some of the original artwork from Harper's. That's all available on the Willa Cather Archives, which is part of the University of Nebraska Lincoln's website. Most of these works are in the public domain, maybe all of them. And so the stories are printed there. The illustrations from the original publications are printed there. And that's a great resource for Willa Cather if you want to look at the Enchanted Bluff or any other stories by her. And there we have it. That is the February 2025 Roundup. Thanks so much for being a part of this channel, for watching, for supporting. And it's nice to see some new subscribers out there. It's nice to, it'd be nice if nobody subscribed, because I'm having a great time doing a booktube channel. I'm just having fun. But if you're subscribed, thank you. If you've liked this video and commented, thank you. I really appreciate all of that support. And until next time, my name's Greg, and this is Ghost Readers in the Sky. Keep on reading.